polluting the island's waterways for decades.
Well, now officials trying to put a stop to it. Our Stone Grissom has part 2 of our special series, What's in the Water?
Long Island's big mistake is overdevelopment.
More than 3 million people call Long Island home. However, folks living, working, and playing on the island have endangered one of its most precious natural resources.
We clearly have a water quality crisis.
Experts say nitrogen from lawn fertilizers and septic waste is the main cause for the red, brown, and rust tides around the island. Each summer, one or more of the harmful alga blooms grows in our local bays and harbors. Kevin Halton is a bayman and manages a local seafood market in Freeport.
The fish haven't been as close as they have been along the shore. The fish are a little further off, so the boats have to go out into deeper water.
We've lost 90% of our hard clam landings, 90% of our scallop landings. Since the 20th century, 90% of our seagrass, about half of our wetlands.
Well, most of the nitrogen that seeps into our groundwater ultimately ends up right here in our bays, and that causes the alga blooms, which then chokes the marine life. And experts say most of the nitrogen comes from one source: cesspools and septic systems.
Right now, Long Island's challenge is improperly treated sewage from septics. It's nitrogen, which is a problem.
Nearly 80% of the homes in Suffolk are using antiquated septic systems. And
if you look at where harmful algal blooms are occurring, it's really exclusively Suffolk County.
Suffolk Executive Steve Ballone has made it his mission to reduce the levels of nitrogen seeping into the groundwater. The county recently launched an initiative to prompt residents and business owners to upgrade to a state-of-the-art nitrogen-reducing septic system. The systems are expensive, nearly $20,000, but homeowners will get financial help.
A first-of-its-kind program in the state, a grant loan program that makes it workable and affordable for the average homeowner to be able to replace that old wastewater treatment system.
The county says more than 500 homeowners have applied for the grant since the county started accepting applications in July. Experts say that's a good sign for Long Island and its water.
Where you clean up the nitrogen, the ecosystem restores itself.
There's a lot at stake for Long Island financially. Recreational fishing is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Commercial fishing is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
We can't have a vibrant future or a prosperous future in this region if we're not protecting our water quality.
And for Kevin Halton, that's good for his livelihood.
We want the cleanest possible water we can get.
Joining us tonight is Bob DeLuca. He's the president and CEO of Group for the East End, which serves to protect and restore the environment of eastern Long Island through advocacy and education. Bob, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your time tonight. Is nitrogen, is that the biggest threat to Long Island's drinking water?
Well, I think it is overall. I mean, obviously, we have a diverse landscape here on Long Island, and Nassau County may be different than Suffolk County, but one of the principal concerns all the way across the island is nitrogen. And nitrogen from septic systems is probably top of that list.
Is it the development too? Because Nassau seems to be a little bit more developed. It was developed first. It's more developed than Suffolk County.
Well, it's interesting. It's development and it's infrastructure, right? So in the case of Nassau County, fortunately in many places has access to sewage treatment plants. About 30% of Nassau County is not on sewage treatment plant protection. But in Suffolk County, as much as 80% of the county is really without any kind of sewage treatment. So we have a hole in the backyard with basically a tank or maybe a leaching pool. And there are hundreds of thousands of those systems which really do not treat nitrogen in a way that it needs to be treated to protect surface waters.
Well, how does it need to be treated, the nitrogen?
So one of the things when you try to remove domestic wastewater is that you're trying to take the amount of nitrogen that comes out of us in our waste and trying to attenuate that or basically make it less over time. So if you basically are trying to think about all of the people in Suffolk County flushing their toilets, you're hoping that rain and property and land will basically help dilute all of that before it gets to surface water. The systems that we have are really designed for drinking water protection. Drinking water protection and nitrogen is very different than surface water protection. Surface water, much less nitrogen, can have a much greater impact.
Okay, and we're seeing some of the cesspools right there in Suffolk County now. If the aging cesspools are part of the problem, is the solution what we're seeing in Suffolk right now to upgrade these septic treatment systems?
Right. So over the past maybe half a dozen years, as we've come to understand this issue, more seriously, and also technology has advanced. So years ago, and I used to work at the county health department in Suffolk many years ago, the system that's in the ground now is the best system that we had. So in the last 15 to 20 years, advanced treatment systems have been able to treat the nitrogen before it gets into the groundwater, and that groundwater, as it flows to the bay, is in better shape when it leaves your property. And it's really just about trying to take the nitrogen from about 65 milligrams per liter to 19 milligrams per liter, but what that really means is you're just dropping the amount of nitrogen coming out of your house, and by the time it gets to surface waters, it's at a low enough level to help those ecosystems manage the nitrogen that's coming in.
Okay, are we going down the right path? Are we doing enough right now?
Well, I think people in my business always think we can do more, and we should be doing more, but I think right now we're seeing, and it's weird to say the word renaissance and sewage treatment at the same time, but there's a real renaissance in sewage treatment across Long Island. So the Long Island Nitrogen Action Plan, which was basically commissioned by the state of New York and being worked on with both counties, and the state DEC is giving us a plan for how to manage that nitrogen. In the local communities that we have, particularly on the East End where I work, we actually have incentive programs at the local level to help people replace these systems. Suffolk County recently started an incentive program which can give people as much as $11,000 toward the price of a new system. On the East End, those can be combined with local incentives and rebates. And so, yeah, I mean, we're really starting to see things happen. Now, it's a big problem. It's going to take time, but the reality is we're starting to see that change, and we have the technology to make it work.
On the local level, are there any governments, municipalities that we can look at as models? Are they doing it right? They're getting it done?
Well, I would say, you know, where I work most frequently on the East End, the towns of Southampton and East Hampton really are a great model. They are basically each providing rebates for people to put in new systems, as much as $16,000 in the case of Southampton, $15,000 in the case of East Hampton. And in some cases, you can match those with the county rebate program. They're also creating their own rules about how much nitrogen can go into the groundwater, in a sense, adding to the protections that are already there from Suffolk County, as Suffolk County sort of catches up and tries to deal with its mandate to deal with all the 10 towns in Suffolk County. Those two towns are probably as far ahead as any. And they really are trying to look at swapping out in the most sensitive areas the primitive or failing systems that are there and replacing them with advanced technology that will treat the nitrogen.
All right, Bob DeLuca, I appreciate the time, appreciate the information. Thank you very much for the discussion. All right, when we come back, Bill Corbell will have your 7-day hyperlocal forecast. We'll be right back.